If you're a criminal, you'll be deported. If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up. The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, they're the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president for the past half-century.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Today, we are signing an executive order aimed at reining in this out-of-control administration. The order establishes ICE-free zones. That means that city property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids.
So we got to talk about Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, along with Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, continue to dig themselves into a deeper hole with their actions against the president, as now he's calling for their arrest. This all comes after a pattern of Chicago leadership basically actively obstructing ICE agents from doing their job. I mean, first you got this thing where Brandon Johnson signed an executive order creating these ICE-free zones where federal agents are restricted from operating. And then on top of that, you have actual audio where officers are being directed not to respond and assist federal agents who are asking for backup. And so you have the serious questions and concerns on Chicago leaders and what they are directing law enforcement to do when it comes to assisting federal agents, who we've seen being stalked in their vehicles, followed around town, harassed and attacked by these violent rioters. We're talking about a city where the judge allowed a woman who used her vehicle to ram into ICE agents while carrying a semi-automatic weapon in her vehicle. They let her out on bail. And so these are real threats that the city of Chicago seems to not be taking with the serious nature that it should be, especially when you consider what happened at the ICE processing center in Dallas. And it raises a very real question. Are Chicago leaders more interested in protecting their own political narrative more than they are with protecting federal law enforcement? Because at the rate things are escalating, someone's going to get seriously hurt. And so we got a bunch we're going to cover today. So let's jump into the first clip. Border Czar Tom Homan speaking on the matter.
Get Noam's thugs the hell out of Chicago. Language like that in the wake of what happened in Dallas. What's your response?
Well, it's disgusting. I've been saying for months, I think I said start back in March. If the hateful rhetoric didn't stop from politicians, from mayors and governors and some members of Congress, there will be bloodshed. And of course, I was attacked for saying that. Well, unfortunately, I was right. There has been bloodshed. We've had 3 shootings in Texas alone. One ended up with a man with a rifle shooting at a Border Patrol facility that was killed by Border Patrol agents. Another gunman attacked a facility, detention facility in Alvarado, Texas, where an officer was shot in the neck. And thirdly, you got the sniper event in Dallas, Texas, where detainees were shot and killed. He met the hit ICE officer. So look, it's going to continue. And it's not over. And I've seen this movie before. Unless this rhetoric stops, there will be more harm, especially to the men and women at ICE. Governor Pritzker should be calling President Trump up and thanking him for taking over 1,000 criminal aliens off the streets of his state. The same President Trump did in Los Angeles, the same he did in Washington, D.C., the same we're doing in other cities. We're there to make the city safer. And you think Governor Pritzker and the Mayor Johnson, their number one responsibility is protection of their communities. Remove public safety threats from the public. We're there to do that. And we're not going to stop doing it. They can stand aside and watch us do it, but we're going to be out there tonight. We're going to be out there tomorrow. And thank God for Governor Abbott. He's sending troops out there to help protect ICE officers who have over 1,000% increase in attacks. So President Trump's doing the right thing. We're going to continue doing the right thing. We are not stopping what we're doing.
Have you ever had a moment that changed your life? One accident, one employer who doesn't care, one hospital bill you couldn't pay. That's how quick life can change. And when it does, you realize something fast. The big companies, the insurance giants, they don't care about you. They've got teams of lawyers whose only job is to protect their bottom line. But who's protecting you? There's a reason why it feels like traffic always jams when you're running late. Just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. For over 35 years, Morgan & Morgan has fought for the people, not the powerful. With 1,000 plus attorneys and more than 100 offices nationwide, they've recovered over $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients just like you. Whether you're a 41-year-old family man in Florida, struck by a driver who ran a red light, Morgan & Morgan secured a $9.3 million verdict, or a father and Little League coach who suffered lasting injuries in a car crash, Morgan & Morgan secured a $6.1 million verdict. When you hire them, it's like hiring a legal army that has your back. Starting a claim is simple. You can get started right now from your phone. No hassle. You can click the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to see if you have a claim. Their fee is free unless they win. Because when life changes in an instant, you deserve a law firm that's ready to fight for you. Those events are real situations that are occurring that agents have to deal with. And when you have the mayor of Chicago signing executive orders which prevent ICE from being on city property because you're trying to create these ICE-free zones in the name of so-called protecting your city, and you got the governor who's co-signing these policies that are making it harder for agents to operate safely, they're not protecting the city, they're protecting chaos.
I want to play for you something because Portland is another prominent city facing something of what you're dealing with in Illinois. My colleague Shimon Prokupez spoke with a congresswoman from Portland who is there and begging protesters at an ICE facility there to leave because what she says is that outrage is exactly what the administration is looking for. Let me play for you what this congresswoman says.
By going to that facility, people are not being strategic. You know, at this moment in time, protesting in the streets is absolutely important. Just don't protest right there because then you're playing into their story that is not the reality, as you can see looking around here. You become part of a war zone narrative if they decide that that's the time they're going to go out there and provoke.
Do you agree with her? I mean, would you like to see the protesters leave? Because I know that you have signed an executive order to limit the hours that protesters can protest at the facility.
Oh, absolutely. We know that ICE don't respect local laws. They don't respect First Amendment speech and assembly, and the Fourth Amendment unlawful in assembly. So absolutely. And we want to make sure that the people that visit our town every day, that they're safe and they feel protected. By going into that facility is just going to incite other things that can take place. And we just want people to be safe, but be able to exercise their freedom of speech.
But you'd like to see the protesters leave. You think they're playing into the administration's hands by protesting outside the facility?
Well, emotions are high right now, right? And so when we channel that emotion of anger, sometimes we don't think rationally. And so we as local leaders have to put protocols in place to keep people safe. It's not to restrain or put a ban on anything. It's in the best interest of them. And sometimes people just don't know what's best for them because of the anger that they are facing or the challenges that they want to see changed from their lens. But I agree with her that, you know, we asking you all to stay away from the facility because it's going to create more problems. And again,
you have the right to be able to assemble. You have the right to free speech. You have the right to be able to protest something that you may not agree with. But what you don't have the right to is just because you don't agree with it is then try and obstruct federal agents from doing the job that they have been tasked to do. And that's what we have been seeing with the countless coverage, not covered by the mainstream media, but through the countless coverage that we get to see online through social media, people covering this on the ground and then posting it. We've seen the coverage of people, of vehicles, federal agent vehicles being blocked, being obstructed from being able to just move freely from in and out of the facility so that way they can go out and do their job. And so when peaceful protests go from just simply coming out with signs and bullhorns saying mean things to federal agents to now you are physically trying to use force to prevent them from doing their job, it's no longer about free speech. It's no longer about a protest. And so now, after the president has called for the arrest of Mayor Brandon Johnson, he's on CNN claiming that he's defending the values of Chicago residents. He always likes to use that word residents because he can't say citizens because that's not who he's defending. He's not defending the citizens. Sure, these are residents of Chicago, but legal citizens they are not. But let's go ahead and take a listen.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. So, Mayor, we're going to get to the National Guard in just a minute. But first, President Trump this morning called for you, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, to be jailed for, quote, failing to protect ICE officers. What is your response?
Well, first of all, this president is unstable, unhinged, a double-minded individual that, quite frankly, is a threat to our democracy. And it's certainly not the first time that Donald Trump has called for the arresting of a black man unjustly. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay firm as the mayor of this amazing city, which was voted 9 years in a row the best big city in America, and we're going to defend all of Chicago.
Yeah, and to be clear, he's also calling for the governor, J.B. Pritzker, to be jailed as well.
First off, who cares about some corporate award for best big city? He's speaking about it like it's some legit award. It's a PR stunt handed out by companies looking to profit off of the city's image. So if that's the best defense Mayor Brandon Johnson can offer, he's already off to a weak start. Then comes the classic move of the race car where he tries to make this about being a black man under attack. Even though the host pointed out how the president has also called for the arrest of Governor J.B. Pritzker, who's white, to be held accountable. And so this isn't about race, it's about obstruction from the Democrats. And we just heard Tom Homan in the clip previously speak about this. This is the direct result of leaders refusing to cooperate with federal law enforcement. I mean, let's be clear, this didn't just happen out of nowhere. They were asked first to help remove these violent offenders, and they said no. They were told to coordinate with ICE, and instead they decided to create ICE-free zones. And so now when you have the federal government who is deciding to step in because Chicago leadership has made it clear they're not going to enforce the law, and they're not even going to assist federal authorities in enforcing the law. And no amount of moral posturing or media spin is going to change that. The agents are there. The cooperation is no longer optional. And Brandon Johnson, he can go on CNN and hold as many press conferences as he wants. He won't be able to create enough ICE-free zones to hide from accountability.
What are you hearing when it comes to the Texas National Guard troops, when they'll actually be deployed into the city, what they're actually going to be doing there?
Well, there's been no communications with my administration and the federal government. What we do know is that this president is working outside the bounds of the Constitution, and that there are National Guard from the state of Texas that are being, quote unquote, trained just outside of the city of Chicago. And keep in mind, these individuals do not have policing powers. They do not have arresting powers. So the judge right now in Illinois is looking at what exactly is the mission of the National Guard from the state of Texas.
The purpose of the Texas Guard being there is simple. It's to protect ICE agents and support federal operations. That protection becomes necessary when you have local police departments being told to stand down, to look the other way, and to refuse assistance when federal officers are under attack.
We know this is illegal, unconstitutional. That's already been proven in the courts in Oregon, and we fully expect the same ruling to take place here in the state of Illinois.
And the White House says that they're doing what they're allowed to do under Title X, the law. They say that these operations are designed to protect federal facilities and officers. And there have been some protesters around Chicago that have blocked access to the ICE facility in Broadview. Does that prove that this mobilization is needed?
No. In fact, this president is working to look, from the very beginning, we always knew that sending in the federal agents was a pretext to the National Guard. His ultimate goal is to send the military into American cities, which there aren't people who are signing up to serve and protect our democracy abroad to be then unleashed on the cities that are actually raising them. What we have seen is a full escalation from these federal agents. And a man was shot and killed. Another person was shot by federal agents. Just this past weekend, they unleashed tear gas on my local police department. Over 24 police officers were subject to this type of violent escalation. The people in Chicago are very clear about our fundamental right to protest. That is a fundamental right for our democracy, and that's what we're going to continue to protect.
Right. Now, the woman that was shot, DHS has said they did that for defensive reasons. She was car ramming, but there are certainly questions surrounding that still.
And so let's get this straight. The mayor says no. Protesters aren't obstructing ICE operations. Then what exactly do you call mobs surrounding federal vehicles, blocking agents from transporting detainees on public streets? And we're not talking about peaceful demonstrations anymore. We're talking about organized groups physically interfering with law enforcement. How reckless do you have to be to keep downplaying it?
But when it comes to what I had mentioned, for example, protesters blocking access to federal buildings, what is your message to those protesters? I mean, do you support them blocking access?
What I've always said is that we have to peacefully assemble, and we do that nonviolently. That is how we have transformed this country. The city of Chicago is known for its ability to stand up and to resist peacefully. So, of course, we're not condoning any acts of violence. But that also includes that the federal government cannot unleash tear gas and shoot pepper balls at journalists for just showing up to do their job and to cover the news.
Listen, Brandon Johnson is doing everything he can to spin this, talking in circles, avoiding the actual question. It's a very simple question. Do you support protesters who are blocking ICE agents from performing their duties at the ICE facility? And he can't even admit that, because to say no would admit the very obvious thing, that it is wrong. Meanwhile, you have Governor J.B. Pritzker trying to play tough guy like he's Tony Soprano out here, puffing his chest out, throwing around bravado when asked about the president calling for his arrest. Let's check this out.
You know as well as I do, the president of the United States in the last 24 hours called for you to be imprisoned. I want to give you an opportunity. We've seen your reaction on social media, but I want to hear what you have to say back to the president of the United States.
Well, let's start with the idea that this is a convicted felon. I mean, think about that, who is threatening to jail me. I got to say, this guy's unhinged. He's insecure. He's a wannabe dictator. And there's one thing I really want to say to Donald Trump. If you come for my people, you come through me. So come and get me.
What does that mean?
So that's the performance. Lots of chest puffing and zero substance. Playing fake Tony Soprano on camera might impress on the activist timeline, but it doesn't protect a single family or a single federal agent doing dangerous work. But as always, guys, leave your thoughts down below. I appreciate when you guys chime in. Don't forget, you enjoy any part of the content, make sure you go ahead and smash the like button. For more, subscribe to the channel. And don't forget, stick around for the next video, where we get into how this government shutdown may be backfiring for Democrats. Polling coming out recently showing that it's not looking good for Democrats when it comes to the 2026 upcoming midterm elections. So make sure you stick around for that, and I'll see you next time.